Well, I have 5 o'clock, so are
Yes, sir.
you ready to go there?
Yep, it's high five. We're ready to go.
Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call our November 2020 Planning Commission meeting to order. Please, everybody, if you can mute your microphones, that would help us out. Amber, can you do a roll call for us, please?
I will. Wendy Birmingham.
Here.
Robin Bridges. Phil Chancellor.
Here.
Jana Jager.
Here.
Mac Lazenby.
Here.
Marcus Marshall.
Here.
Warren McCord.
Here.
Nanette Reese.
Here.
Bob Reitenbaugh.
Here.
All right, thank you. Before we start, I'd like, especially since there's so many people joining us here tonight, I'd like to kind of go over some of the couple of important ground rules and explain the basic process. Tonight, the commission is going to be presented with agenda items from the City Planning Department. A representative for the agenda item will have an opportunity to make comments or answer specific questions from the commission, and then I'll open up public hearing if it's appropriate. And this will be your time to chime in and address the commission about the issue at hand. And I'll be able to do that by opening your microphones so that you can speak. So I'll be able to take care of that when we get to that part of the meeting. I ask you that you keep your time to talk to 5 minutes, and please keep your comments relevant to the case that's at hand. After everyone has spoken, I'm going to close the public hearing, and then the representative and staff will have an opportunity to answer questions brought up in the hearing. And then what I'll do, we'll open the floor for the commissioners to provide a motion or discussion as appropriate. The commission's going to vote based on state and local laws. It also includes considerations to the City Comprehensive Plan 2030 and the basic good of the community. Another important responsibility we have has to do with roles and responsibilities that are associated with subdivision plats, of which there are a couple tonight. By Alabama statute, a municipal planning commission such as ours is the final approval authority for subdivision plats. And with regards to subdivision plats, the commission acts as an administrative body and is bound by the limitations contained in state laws, the city zoning ordinance, and the subdivision regulations that this body has approved previously. While public hearings are required for each of the preliminary plats, and we welcome all public comments on those, please understand that this commission's authority is strictly limited to confirming that the plat meets or exceeds specific requirements that have been codified in laws or in the regulations that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on with the agenda tonight. And our first item is the citizens communication. Now, this is a time where you can speak on any subject that is not on the agenda at all. Okay, that's one qualification to speak. Or you can speak on one of the consent agenda items, of which tonight there are 4. So I'm going to go ahead and open the floor. And if anybody would like to speak at this time, and please, if you want to talk about other issues on the agenda tonight, well, there'll be a time for that as we proceed through the meetings. So the way you have to, if you want to speak, please electronically raise your hand. You'll have an option in your Zoom application on your device. So I'm opening the floor for citizens communication at this time. And I am seeing no hands. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll move on now, and there's no old business tonight. And the first item on the agenda is going to be the consent agenda. And the consent agenda tonight includes the approval of the packet meetings for October the 5th, the regular meeting minutes for October the 8th, 2020, and the following items. The first issue is Weber Farms South Extension Annexation, PL 2020-00586. Number 2 is Aculis Young Subdivision Redivision of Lot 1, PL 2020-00595. Number 3 is Yarborough Farms Subdivision The Park, PL 2020-00491. And number 4 is the Yarborough Farm Subdivision Sawgrass, PL 2020-00576. Mr. Cotton, any comments?
No, sir. We reviewed the consent agenda with you earlier in the week, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Okay, the consent agenda does not require a public hearing, so I look for a motion or discussion or motion from the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda, 4 items on the consent agenda, including the minutes of the packet meeting October the 5th and the regular meeting of October the 8th.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed say no. Okay, motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. All right, so let's move into new business. The first item of new business is the Bedell Weber Farms Annexation, PL 2020-00592, of which the staff recommends denial. Mr. Howell.
Yes, good evening, everybody. First case tonight is going to be, is that me or somebody else?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute the microphones here. Okay, go ahead, Jay.
All right, can you all hear me now?
Yep.
All right. Case before you is an annexation request on the far north side of town. It includes approximately 94 acres, seen here on the proximity map. It's just located north of 1100 Ensminger Road, along the boundary between Lee County and Chambers County. Consists of 2 parcels that are divided by Lee Road 94, which you see intersecting between the 2. And both parcels are currently undeveloped. Staff is recommended denial based on the property's location outside of the city of Auburn's optimal boundary. The optimal boundary is, actually go to the next slide, please. Optimal boundary located here in the dashed blue is the adopted limit that the city sees itself growing as part of Comp Plan 2030. This was developed by using the Auburn Interactive Growth Model that allowed us to figure out the areas that were most likely to come in during that time. And we decided that back then we decided that it was most appropriate to set our established boundaries to this point. As you can see, it's outside that area. And in this particular case, since it does not conform with that requirement, we've recommended denial. Should this property be annexed in, it would receive a rural zoning district at a requirement of 3 acre lot minimums, which would result in a total of 31 parcels between the 2 different parcels there. The city staff worked with other departments to gain their feedback, and as noted in your packet, in particular, the Auburn City Schools felt that it was applicable to stick with the Comp Plan 2030 boundaries, and they are requesting that be denied as well. Have not received any feedback or correspondence regarding this, and staff is happy to answer any of your questions. Oh, excuse me, this is a zoomed out map of that optimal boundary. You see here color-coded future land use designations. Basically anything that has a color is within the optimal boundary. And you can see that it ends on the north side there, right as Ensminger Road cuts across it.
And then again, can you refresh us a little bit about go back to the last slide. So up at right up there near the boundary, there's a kind of there's some property that's inside our city limits, but it's there's a case of where somebody backed out of the city limits at some point in history.
That's correct.
That goes back. There was some litigation going back to 2006, 2005. Large property owner up in that area challenged some of the contiguity and the chain of which some annexations took place along Heath Road. And basically it was just generally aggrieved and wanted out of the city. After some deliberation and obviously with the litigation, the city essentially said, if you don't want in, we're happy to let you out. The property was removed, but having that property removed does not obligate the city, nor is the property there to the east punished by that. So essentially that property was contiguous when the Currington property was in. Just because the Currington property comes out doesn't mean the adjacent property comes out, hence the gap.
Right, okay. Just want to get a little refresher on that. Okay, thank you. Okay, it looks like the representative is Brett Basquin. Brett, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Hey, I just have one quick question.
Sure.
It also looks like to the south, I guess, there is a break as well, or am I just not looking at this map correct?
Right around Goldfield?
Jana, I think there's a stem that extends that actually allows for contiguity.
Oh, it's just so small I can't see it.
Yeah, we have a really odd allowance for annexations where you can potentially traverse multiple parcels with a 60-foot strip.
Okay.
In order to get a parcel that may have not been eligible otherwise into the city limits.
Okay, that's fine. I just couldn't see that on my laptop.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to see.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and I noticed, so Brett Basquin, you're the representative. Would you like to have anything to say?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Brett Basquin with the Foresight Group. I'm here with my client, Michael Monk with Michael Allen Homes, who I'm representing on this project. He's looking at proposing 3-acre to 10-acre minimum size lots. We feel like there's an unmet demand in the city for 3-acre minimum lots. We're anticipating these houses to be in the $500,000 to $600,000 range starting for this size. I know, Phil, you mentioned that you felt like, are we introducing sprawl? And we don't feel like we're introducing sprawl here. These are large rural home sites where acreage is desired by residents of Auburn, and not your typical 1/4 acre, 1/3 of an acre home sites where homes are 10 feet apart. You know, these are 150, 250 foot wide lots that allow for a house and multiple acres. There's limited availability of this type of property and this type of use in the city of Auburn. And while we understand the comp plan takes into account the growth model and overall density and housing demands, what the growth model doesn't take into account is the availability of land and the suitability of land for development. And so while there is a lot of land available within the desired optimal boundary, a lot of that land is not for sale or is not in a position to be sold or developed. This particular parcel, again, is immediately adjacent to the optimal boundary. And, you know, at the end of the day, the overall 94-acre tract, plus or minus, you know, we're talking about 31 maximum home sites. We're well less than that because most of our lots are averaging 4.5, 5-acre lots, not the 3-acre lot minimum. So we felt like it was a good use, a desired use, and we would look for your support in getting this annexed into the city. So be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, as this is an annexation, it does not require a public hearing. Is that true, Forrest? Just to make sure?
That is true.
Okay. So that just kind of puts it back to the commission for discussion or a motion. And I guess I would kind of lead off by saying, one of the main drivers of that comprehensive plan, again, is not, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't necessarily look at what types of uses are out there. It's a matter of what the boundaries should be so that we can keep the redevelopment inside this boundary so that we can be a little more deliberate in that. And I kind of have a hard time going against what we predict, we put into the plan over 10 years ago now. So, I don't know that this is outside that boundary. So I'm gonna have a hard time voting to make that happen.
Well, Phil, one of the reasons I would suspect that this property is available is because it's outside of the optimum boundary. In other words, we normally do not make decisions that are contrary to our stated purposes and plans just because someone cannot find property that's available for sale that they want for the use that they want to do on it inside, in this case, our city limits or inside our optimum boundary. So to solve, and I've always been uncomfortable in this position, we do affect the market by our decisions. Yeah. Where we draw certain lines affect the value of property within and without those boundaries. So I'm inclined to stay with our own plan, our own policy, which is based on sound data and research. So I think if we do this, we're merely doing the developer a favor and not necessarily staying true to our planning principles.
Okay. Other comments or motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move we deny item 5 on the agenda based on the simple fact of properties outside the City of Auburn's optimum boundary and contrary to our comp plan.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and second. Amber, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Chancellor?
Yes for denial.
Okay. Jaeger?
Yes.
Lazenby?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
McCord?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Reitenbaugh?
Yes.
Birmingham?
Yes.
All right, motion carries, and that is annexation is denied. Okay, moving on to item number 6. This is the Weber Farms South Extension rezoning, PL 2020-00587, which is a recommendation to rezone from rural to development district housing. Mr. Kipp.
Yes, sir. This is, as you stated, a rezoning request for a portion of property that you approved for annexation or recommended for approval of annexation on the consent agenda. This is the second of 3 requests associated with this property. The request, as you stated, is to rezone from rural to DDH, Development District Housing. You can see it is to the east of Camden Ridge and is the request is for the same type of zoning, DDH, which is a residential zoning district. The applicant is proposing to develop it as single-family, conventional single-family development. Staff recommends approval. It is a 1.9 acres, which is just a portion of the overall subdivision that you'll see shortly. And here is an exhibit showing that portion of the overall property proposed for rezoning. I did receive several calls about this request. A lot of them in just for general information, but at least 2 in opposition. And a lot of that having to do with the preliminary plat. So I will save that for their preliminary plat, but did want to bring it up in the rezoning. And here is an aerial image of the subject property. The proposed rezoning of the DDH does meet the future land use plan designation of low density residential, and DDH zoning would match up with that designation. As such, staff's recommending approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the rezoning.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Basquin, is the representative anything to add?
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this requires a public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. And again, if you would like to speak on this, this rezoning, please raise your electronic hand. All right, Mr. B, I'm assuming Mr., maybe not, BJ England. If you just unmute, you'll be able to talk.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is BJ England. I'm a resident on Fillmore Court there. I guess that's perpendicular to the proposed property. My question, a few questions. I'm opposed to this, but my question may be more on the plat, but do we have a master plan for the property to the east of the subject property? Do we have any thoughts about how, because this drive, my concern is it being connected to this this all the way to the North Donahue Road?
I don't have an answer to that, but we will get some of the staff that could answer that question for us. So you're looking for, well, actually, it's not been developed yet, and I don't think it's even. Well, let me ask that question when we get done. What are your other questions?
Well, my other question is, and this may be more on the plat side, but they're proposing just to stub this entrance, and it looks like it's going to be a smaller neighborhood. These residents are obviously going to be using Camden Ridge sidewalks, roadways, pool. They're going to be wanting to add to the pool. So is there consideration of this being part of Camden Ridge where there should be some type of initiation fee, paying homeowners dues into this neighborhood? Since they're going to be using the entrance of Camden Ridge, the primary entrance of Camden Ridge.
Well, that's not before us, I'm afraid. That will be some sort of a homeowners association, but we'll verify that as well. So you're looking for, let's see. Basically, you're looking for some sort of, is there any use fees going to be associated with the property?
Well, is this an independent neighborhood called Weber Farms, or is it part of this North Woods subdivision to the north?
It's independent.
Okay.
That's the way we're looking at it in this case.
So you guys are, I'm sure you're aware how many homes are in Camden Ridge. There's 500 homes plus in Camden Ridge.
Yes, sir.
Adding more than a couple hundred more. And so I understand 10 is not a lot, but those other homes that were approved, we were giving site plans, we were giving home designs to, and incorporated those into Camden Ridge. So I would suggest we follow suit if this was moving forward.
Okay. Let's see if we can address that. Okay, is that all the questions?
Yeah, that's all for now.
Okay, thank you. Kathy Elmore, if you just unmute, we'll be able to hear you.
Yes, sir. I'm also a resident of Fillmore Court. And I just wanted to echo what he said. I guess we're all concerned about this plot coming into our neighborhood, but not being a part of our neighborhood. So, and again, I think it does lend, I was about to lower my hand because I think it does lend itself back to the plat, but I would be in opposition as well. But I think it goes back. My questions are more toward the plat part than the annex.
Yeah. Which, let's see here.
It's further down. I apologize.
Yeah, we'll have some more detail when we get to it. Okay. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then let's see if I see anybody. I do not see anybody else, so I am going to close the public hearing. And then I guess what I'd do is I'll start by asking you, Mr. Cotton, are you familiar with anything that's going, any work or development work or anything that's been proposed for the east of this property?
No, I don't have Camden Ridge is not under a planned development district designation, and I am not aware of any type of master lot layout plan for this property.
So that kind of, especially since it's not under a master development program, that kind of reinforces the idea that this, being an independent development, that, basically, there's not going to be, I guess we can't really answer that question about any kind of, homeowners association or any of that kind of stuff. So
I mean, the applicant's representative may have some responses as far as the HOA information is concerned. Obviously, this is exactly the reason why we push for master plan development, to eliminate all the types of questions that come when you don't master plan development. But it doesn't mean that we can preclude it necessarily if they meet the regulations of the subdivision regs.
Right, that's right. You have anything that you might be able to add to that, Mr. Basquin?
No, the remaining property to the east is still in the county. So
yeah, I wondered.
There's no master development plan at this time. We're just proposing a conventional subdivision, just like previous phases of Camden Ridge are. And at this time, there's no thought of being part of the Camden Ridge Homeowners Association that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, well, since the public hearing's closed, that now puts it back in our hands to have a motion or discussion or both.
Mr. Chairman, I move on approval of item 6 on the agenda.
Okay, I have a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and second. Amber, can you please do a roll call for us?
Okay. Chancellor?
Yes.
Jaeger?
Yes.
Lazenby?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
McCord?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Reitenbaugh?
Yes.
Birmingham?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. The next item is item number 7, which is Weber Farm South. Again, this is extension 2, and it's PL 2020-00594. Mr. Kipp.
Yes, sir. Same subject property, but this time including a portion of property that's currently in the city limits and zone DDH, along with the rest of the property being proposed to be DDH. The applicant is proposing an 11-lot conventional subdivision. You can see the lots here that would extend off of Sutherland Lane and end in essentially a dead-end stub out. The subdivision, as shown, meets all requirements in the subdivision regulations. However, there is an administrative plat that needs to occur prior to final platting to remove this piece of land out of this subdivision and into this subdivision, and bringing in a piece of this land from the county into this subdivision. So a little
that'll be the later date though, right?
Correct. They've submitted an administrative plat for it, and we're just putting a condition on there that administrative plat be recorded prior to final platting.
Okay.
Other than that, staff recommends approval, and happy to answer any questions. Again, I did receive a lot of calls in opposition, or mostly in question about what would happen to this connection if it would ever connect to North Donahue Drive, if the developer plans to build more lots, etc. But I'm happy to answer any questions and provide information.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Basquin?
Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this requires a public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. And again, if you'd like to speak, please raise your electronic hands and have your say. Mr. England, go ahead and unmute, and we'll be able to hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, two questions. The property to the east is county. It does actually, there is a structure there on North Donahue. It's labeled on the pillars there, Stable Creek. There is a paved road in that county property that meets up exactly with Sutherland Lane. So if you follow that all the way down to the subject property, keep going, it will meet and stub right there. So okay. Where you're stubbing is exactly the same place where there could be a road, which would create a whole nother entrance to Camden Ridge, because all the people in the back are going to take that entrance. So that's my concern, is the increased traffic eventually coming through. So if this is developed, my proposal, why wouldn't we cul-de-sac this property? Why would we stub it and not cul-de-sac and end this property and keep it part of Camden Ridge?
Okay. All right. Was that it, Mr. England?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, Mr. Josh Clanton. Go ahead and unmute, and we'll be able to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo BJ's comments on that. I think it's making a prime target for a high traffic roadway in there. If you look at the full map of Camden Ridge, there's going to be hundreds of homes that people are going to take that shortcut route through there. And I agree with BJ. I think if this has any chance of getting my support, it would be having a cul-de-sac there to prevent that from happening. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Justin and Jennifer Shelton. Just unmute and we'll be able to hear you.
Hi, yes, this is Jennifer Shelton. I was just, wanted to reiterate again what BJ and Josh said. I'm a resident on Sutherland Lane, and, to have an entrance to that division, whereas Holland Homes just built right behind Camden Ridge and they have no entrance to our subdivision, then what is the need for them to have an entrance on Sutherland? If they're not going to be paying HOAs or anything like that, then why should they have an access? That's my question.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can you also state your address? I meant to ask each of you when you speak to give us your address. For the
I'm 1687 Sutherland.
Okay. Thank you. And so basically the question is, why not the cul-de-sac?
Why not the cul-de-sac?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you, ma'am. The next person will be Stacy Couch. So go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Hey, this is Stacy Couch. I'm at 1688 Sutherland Lane. So when you turn off of the main road in Camden Ridge, I'm the first house on the left.
Okay.
And there's a green space behind me. I work at home full time. And I can tell you from the mornings for kids that are not in school and increasing about 2:30 when kids get home from school, Sutherland Lane is an all afternoon playground for the kids on Sutherland Lane and Fillmore Court. They are riding their bicycles. And yes, we have sidewalks, and they are not always on the sidewalks. They turn around the road because this is a close-knit community within Camden Ridge, just on Sutherland Lane and Fillmore Court. And these kids ride their bicycles, and I have gotten onto the FedEx man before for driving too fast when he turns off this road. But when you start doing this and encroaching on all that land back there, which all of us have ridden back there and we know what's back there, they're only going to backdoor and do 10 lots. And when you stub that off, they're going to do 10 more lots, and it's going to keep on and on until it gets on to Donahue. But in that meantime, they're all correct in the way they're saying this. Sutherland Lane is going to be a highway for people coming in the back way until they finally get clearance from you all to come off of Donahue. So at what point are we going to get relief as residents living on this to a throughway instead of a dead end street? And it won't be until they get all the way through. And if it stops at some point in time before it gets to Donahue, and however many years that is from now, how many kids are we going to have laying out here in the street that's been run over because we've allowed 30, 50, 60, 80 more homes be built, and you've got a throughway of traffic coming through without forcing them to come off of Donahue and using a backdoor method of getting through Camden Ridge. That's the concern that I have.
I'd like to ask you a question, if I may. Is this road accessible? Are you saying that you can actually drive on that dirt road already?
If you have an ATV, you can.
Okay.
And Weber Farms started building it, and they've got curbs over there coming off Donahue. And my understanding is they were already shut down coming that way, trying to make it part of Auburn City, because you're about to put, if you see the land back there and the fact that they've already got roads and building and clearing back there, the amount of kids they're about to put on Auburn City schools. And I've got 5 kids that have grown up in these schools, and I have already felt the impact of what it is for my kids to be crowded. The number of kids that are going to come in these homes, when you're talking about, he just told you 10 houses on 2 acres. You take how many thousands of acres are back there and put 10 homes on every 2, you're putting a huge burden on this city. And already you have traffic issues with us trying to get out of Donahue onto University at heavy traffic times. You got a school zone of Yarborough. You're going to have all those cars going back this way. You already have a traffic issue at Farmville and North College, where we have to go out Auburn Lakes Road to get to 280 because it's impossible to get through there. I mean, if you're going to do this and let them start backdooring in through neighborhoods to get to the county, there's going to be no stopping until you've got, another 1,000 houses back here that's not part of Camden Ridge, but that they were able to go through the back way and get into, because it just looks like, it's just 10 more houses. Well, you about to 10 more house that all the way to Donahue and Yarborough Elementary School.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does that wrap it up?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's see. We have Mark Armstrong next.
Yes, thank you. I live at 1661 Sutherland Lane. We don't need to rehash everything that's been asked. I just wanted to go on record that I would be in opposition as well for using Sutherland as a throughway to the development. Don't have any objection to the developer building the houses there, but there's got to be a better way to access it than everybody coming down Sutherland.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Forrest Parker. All you have to do is unmute and we can hear you.
All right, how about that?
That's good. Now I can hear you.
I'm going to agree with everything that my neighbors said, all their oppositions, all their concerns. We definitely probably have, not over exaggerating, at least 20 kids that live in that close-knit Fillmore, Sutherland area. Like they previously said, they're up and down the street all the time. I wouldn't really have much of a problem with a cul-de-sac, like they said, but we don't want Sutherland to turn into another Piedmont. Piedmont is a highway. for all the teenage kids, everybody that's running late for work. They'll run 40, 50 miles an hour up and down that up and down Piedmont, and nobody on our street or Sutherland wants that if we can possibly avoid it. And I would definitely, me and my wife would definitely oppose it if we had any say-so in it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Unfortunately, Mr. England, you had a crack at it already, and there are kind of our buy rules are, you know, you get one bite. So I'm afraid I can't call on you again. And that's all that I see. So if there are any, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Let's see, Kathy Elmore, have you already spoken as well? I think we heard.
Okay.
I spoke the first time, but I think BJ got to speak as well twice on the first.
Well, he spoke on two different issues.
Right, I haven't spoken on this issue yet.
Okay, go right ahead.
But I think I do have a question. So
sure.
Not on these maps that we're looking at, but somewhere in some type data that was written on there, somewhere it did say that they were going to put in a temporary cul-de-sac had been recommended. I'm new to this process, so I don't understand. And that's not drawn on there. I think that was a recommendation from someone. Where is that?
We can address that. I'll ask one of the staff about that when we close the public hearing.
Okay.
No problem. No problem.
I guess that would be my question. Same opposition as everybody else. We don't want a thoroughfare. We see that it's going to connect, and so we just have opposition to that for our children.
Okay.
And that's all.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Let's see. I've got Robin Wilborn. Let's see.
Yep, this is Robin Wilborn. I'm at 1729 Fillmore Court. And I think this all goes back to our original question about we just feel like it would be more fair in order to for you guys to make a decision to see the overall plan rather than this one piece of the plan. The original drawing that was placed in the Planning Commission box appeared that it would be a cul-de-sac. And it was only until one of us called to find out about that they were willing to put a more transparent map in the Planning Commission box that clearly illustrated that it was not intended to be a cul-de-sac. So we felt like there was not great transparency there at all. And one of my big questions that I had asked when I called, and I'll just ask again here, is what voice do we have in this? And that's it.
Let me ask you real quick a follow-up to that. When you said you want to see the whole plan, you know, this is the whole plan. This particular development plat is the whole plan. Are you referring to what they're going to do with the other land that's out in the county that they're going to annex eventually and probably build on, you know, something like that in the future? Because that's not available to us at this point.
Yes, I guess that's my question, really. And I don't know enough about what you guys do, and I apologize about my naivety about that.
Okay.
Shouldn't that be something that you guys as the commission would want to know about, mostly because of the issues that Stacy was bringing up about the increased traffic? You know, obviously we're concerned about the increased traffic on our little street for sure, but that's personal. That affects 2 streets worth of us. Not important to the city, but the things that are important to the city are the traffic flow in general. And again, the greater plan about whether this is ever intended to connect and have access off of Donahue or just the general traffic flow. I just feel like you guys should, you know, when someone presents something like this, I feel like the only fair way to assess it is to have a better idea of the master plan, because clearly that street does not end right there.
Yeah. You know, valid concern. Unfortunately, you know, if it's not even annexed into the city limits, you know, we have no purview over what's going on there. So we don't know the plan for the future, honestly, except that, you know, I could guess that we're going to grow in the future in that area, but, you know, that's just a matter of time and people, you know, developing the land. So anyway, I will ask though about the potential that cul-de-sac once we're done here. I see another person that is interested. Let's see, Catherine Beasley. Wait a minute. There you go. If you just unmute, we'll hear you.
Hey there. I actually just moved to Sutherland Lane less than a year ago. I just wanted to voice my concern and opposition to using Sutherland Lane. It's going to take away a lot of the character and appeal of this neighborhood. And I just wanted to have it on record that I oppose using Sutherland Lane to get into the property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's see. I do not see anybody else. So I am going to close the public hearing and look for questions, comments, discussion from the commission.
Well, first, I'll say that, sorry.
Yeah, we got to.
I will say that all of us, everybody sitting here on this phone call wishes that we had that beautiful PDD that told us there was going to be however many lots, 100 lots between the stub of Sutherland to Donahue, but we don't have that because the city is not in city limits and it's not required by law. So I'm gonna go back to our purview is to look at this plat. Does it meet everything that it's supposed to meet based on our city regulations? And that's what we have to do here tonight. It does meet it. We understand there's additional houses. We understand that means more cars and more kids, potentially. So I just feel like I needed to say that. We agree that we wish we had the full report, but we don't, and it's not required for us to have it.
And it doesn't exist.
It's required for us to have everything that's on the sheet of paper that they want to build out before they come back to us for anything addition.
Yeah, again, we're tied by law to look at those requirements. If they meet the requirements, then we basically have to vote to pass it. Now, one question I would like to ask, let's see, it's Mr. Kipp, who is the planner on this one. Can you address that potential cul-de-sac comment that we heard at least twice?
Yeah, I think there's a comment from engineering requiring a temporary turnaround, which is a common requirement on stub outs. It's essentially would be an easement for, even though it wouldn't be right of way necessarily, it'd be an easement to allow trucks, fire trucks, dump trucks, etc., to be able to actually make the turn at the end.
And that's actually in our packet. So yeah, it says provide a temporary turnaround easement at the end of the lane.
Correct. And it wouldn't necessarily be a curb and gutter. Actually, it would not be a curb and gutter, actual built out cul-de-sac. It would just be a property rights kind of thing.
Let's see. Miss Frazier looks like she's here. Can you maybe enlighten us a little bit about, the one thing that I'm definitely concerned about is if there's any way to access this development through that dirt road, Sutherland Lane that comes from Donahue. And so, it seems to me we want traffic to be able to move, and over time that might be a regular street and all that kind of stuff. But is that something that's passable now? And is there some way that we can put a condition on to shut that down, or do you know anything about the future in this area in terms of growth that you're thinking about streets to be already?
Not aware of anything as far as an extension. Mr. Basquin may know more, or the property owner. If the property's in the county, the only way that I know that this extension that's in the city would be allowed to traverse that would be via a public right-of-way or some kind of easement. And that easement would have to come from the property owner in the county. So and Logan just mentioned the temporary turnaround, that will be for city services primarily.
Right.
But we wouldn't necessarily barricade it because it's a public right of way.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion or motion?
Yeah, given our limited authority to modify this plat at all, I'll go ahead and move to approve agenda item 7 with all staff comments.
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second? Amber, can you do a roll call, please?
Chancellor,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Lazenby,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
McCord,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Breitenbaugh,
Yes.
Birmingham.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. We're on to item number 8, which is Tuscany Hills Phase 7, another preliminary plat. It's PL 2020-00593. Mr. Howell.
Yes, this request before you is a preliminary plat. It's a request for 44 lot subdivision that's comprised of 43 residential lots and 1 open space lot, performance single family, that consists of approximately 26.5 acres. It's located in the Tuscany Hills subdivision in the northeast corner of that subdivision up near 280. However, the access to the subdivision is through Tuscany Hills Drive and Cantera Court, as you see right there. Let's see, this particular property was part of the Tuscany Hills was originally planned out in 2004 and did have some development through the course of that. However, as a result of the financial crisis towards the end of that decade, there was a pretty large interruption in development. We've recently had a couple of different applications to kind of restart that. The latest of which was back in your May meeting, where Tuscany Hills Section 5, written immediately to the west there, where the cursor is circling, is located. This particular subject property is zoned DDH and has a future land use designation of low density residential, which envisions an average density of about 4 dwelling units an acre. The applicant is proposing a subdivision with a gross density of a little over 1.5 dwelling units an acre, so they're well underneath that. They do have, here's the plat. They do have 1 open space lot towards the bottom of that, as it's shown here. That's about 2.3 acres. Open space requirements in the DDH are a 30% open space requirement. And this particular plat only accounts for about 9%. And so approximately 5.5 acres of additional open space is required, and staff has noted that in the report. In addition, there's, as part of subdivision regulation requirements, subdivisions need to provide connectivity to adjoining properties. This was brought up during the preliminary plat for the Section 5 preliminary plat back in May that I just spoke of, and was a requirement of that developer as well. This application shows Cantera Court ending in a cul-de-sac at the terminus there. And one of the staff comments includes providing connection to the property to the west, which is the Tuscany Hills 5 we just spoke of. Staff does recommend approval with those comments, and correspondence that we've received so far has primarily been for information purposes. Other than that, staff is available for your questions.
Okay, thank you. This requires a public hearing. So unless Mr. Rice has, you have something you would like to say, Mr. Rice?
Mr. Chancellor, yes, thank you. I do only have one comment. Other than this, the staff comments are fine. We can meet all of them. I did want to discuss the requirement for a connection to the west. You know, I have looked at this along with the property owner to the west, and I'm still, you know, a little unclear about why that connection is necessary. Both of that connection, you know, while it is possible, it seems like an unnecessary connection simply because it all comes back around through Tuscany Hills Drive and connects out through two existing connection points out of Tuscany Hill. And these are the property to the west and the plat before you tonight are the entirety of the Tuscany Hills subdivision. There is no additional future development. And I don't understand quite why that connectivity is necessary.
Okay. All right. Let's have a public hearing then. Is that last of your comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We will have a public hearing then. Okay, so the first speaker I have on the list is Colby Watford. So if you'll just unmute, you'll be able to speak now.
Can you?
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I just cut you off. Here, hang on.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, Verizon. All right.
That was me.
So I'm Colby Watford, live at 205 Flagstone Place in Stonewood Farms HOA. And I'm representing myself and as the president of the HOA, the other members of our subdivision. Mr. Howell did not completely state everything that is on this plot is actual. So going through Cantera Court actually puts throughput traffic through our subdivision, of which we pay for our signs, we pay for our lighting and so forth. We do not rely on the city to do that. So if they want to develop that, I'm not opposing the plot. I'm opposing the entranceway through our subdivision of Stonewood Farms.
Can you hold on one sec? Can we get a different map up here that has a bigger look than just the plat? There we go. So can you show me where, so let's see, where specifically you talk about as the entrance? It's on Tuscany Hills Drive, right up there by Quarry?
Okay. Yes. So our subdivision starts right here at Tuscany Hills and what is that? I can't see. I'm sorry. Stonewood Farms, right there.
Yeah.
Yep, right there.
Okay.
And to the right is our subdivision.
All right. Got it.
So they have other options for entry into their new development area. And my proposal is that's what they do. It increases the traffic to our neighborhood. We've also, since their other development, we've also had issues of our amenities being used by other people. And we've had to spend money to prevent that. And this does not give us a separate identity from Tuscany Hills versus Stonewood Farms.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid that that's not before the Planning Commission. That would have to be a civil matter, unfortunately. But okay, go ahead.
And that's fine. And I'm stating that so that if that's where it goes, that's where it goes.
Okay.
But wanted to make sure that my opposition, and there was a petition sent out by one of our residents throughout the neighborhood, and everyone does oppose this. So just wanted to make that note.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, sir. Let's see. The next person is Matthew Dabbs.
Yes, I'm at 2640 Cantera Court. I'm 2 homes off of this. And we just have a number of concerns. I mean, our lots are significantly larger, as you can see. They're, some of those lots are 0.19. Obviously, they're within the zoning requirements, but just the value of the homes and the size of the lots and all that are just not compatible with Stonewood Farms. And so we have some concern for the value of our homes. We have concern for the amount of traffic that's going to come through Cantera Court. And it sounds like the builder just said that he had talked with the other builder. I guess that's maybe Stone Martin for stage 5. And I'm really pleased to hear him say that. They said that is absolutely possible to come off of Sophia Court stub and tie in over there. I'm very thrilled to hear that, because I was maybe concerned that that was not going to be possible. And it would just seem to me that it would make all the sense in the world to keep Tuscany Hills contiguous through Tuscany Hills and not come up Quarry Place and over on Cantera Court to get into that land. Obviously, you could take Tuscany Hills Drive down to the bottom of, that other stub, but there is a creek that runs right there with 2 waterfalls. It's a beautiful property. There are multiple springs in that 26 acres. I walked it. It's there's a lot of water that runs through that comes through our neighborhood, feeds our creeks. So, we also have children who play through there, and obviously that's not a matter for the, you guys, you're planning, but there's just a lot there that we just would prefer that traffic to not come through there. We've had homeowners who've closed in the last 6 months who bought because of the low amount of traffic. We have a guy who closed this week who's very upset about this. We petitioned the whole neighborhood. The people all up Quarry Place have stated that they may just want to move if this takes place because of all the traffic, and everybody, pretty much every lot up Quarry Place has small children. So we're very concerned about that.
Okay. Does that wrap it up?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person is Christy Cerro. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to also reiterate what.
Can you give us your address, please, and state your name?
I'm at 2631 Cantera Court. I'm also on the HOA board and serve as the vice president. And we've lived here going on 8 years ourselves. And I did want to know, you call this whole neighborhood Tuscany Hills, and it's not, because we are Stonewood Farms, and which I know has been already addressed. But you also stated that there would be an interest at the bottom of the hill on Tuscany Hills to that subdivision that's proposed, but that's not the case. The only entrance they're or have suggested is directly through our neighborhood on Cantera Court. And the houses, from my understanding, that are being proposed to be built are like a third of the size of some of the current homes in our neighborhood. And it does affect our land value and our property value. And by making a direct pathway into a section that, as I said, is a third of the price of some of our homes. Our home is over 4,600 square feet. And I'm assuming, or from my understanding, it's like 1,200 square feet houses will be. And that will grossly affect what we have in our homes. And in addition, I'm very concerned, as we stand anyways, in regards to the entrance from the bottle, which is a very much a difficult place to even get out in any means, shape, form, or fashion, especially during game days when we are not in a pandemic. And we have a multitude of accidents that have happened since we've lived here. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many, as well as the ones on the entrance into our neighborhood, because it's used by everybody. We maintain that entrance. We own either side of it, and we have maintained it. And we had to take great efforts to even get a stop sign put in, with everyone in our neighborhood calling, because when they developed the neighborhood at the top of the hill, or another section by Stone Martin, I believe, no stop sign was put in. And it was like fend for your life trying to just go up the hill because you can't see as it stands. In addition to that, with the roundabout not even being completed or even started, I can imagine to add even more cars, which I would say at least 80 to 100 cars based on their projection. And I did understand that there was another phase, or the option to build, which we were told by the builder at the last meeting when they wanted to get it approved at the top of the hill at the entrance of our neighborhood. And they approached us wanting to use our pool as a part of the selling purpose, to have an amenity for selling, I guess, the homes. But we asked if they would be comparable to our neighborhood, that we could add them in. And of course they declined, because I guess it's about building more and smaller. And they declined, which no one can make them do that. But I guess I'm trying to understand, if we maintain our neighborhood and our signage and our street lights then we're going to have 40 plus homes, and that's just projection, coming through there, and already a landlocked situation as all our residents are as it stands, to even further cause congestion. We already have a development down at the end of the street on Farmville and coming 280 that's backing up to Ashton, and it's so like saturated that it's one accident after another, and you know, we're over a year out and still haven't had the roundabout. But I'm just taken back. Why is it necessary when there are other options to come into that property for which to build, as opposed to going through a private neighborhood where we're already having issues with people abusing our amenities and so forth, and knowing they're not supposed to. Now they're going to be coming through our direct neighborhood and using our streets or areas or ways, and to that size of a neighborhood with a third of the cost at best.
Okay, does that wrap it up?
No, I really don't think it does. I mean, and besides that, as it's already been pointed out, there is a natural stream with a multitude of animals or whatever. That has that even been looked at or considered in all of this?
Okay, so I hear a couple of three things. One is connectivity is one thing that I hear, that we do have some purview over here. We have no purview over using amenities. That is a civil matter. That's not a planning commission issue at all. And then has streams, you know, the natural surroundings been considered, which is usually part of the development process. And so, you know, I might get the developer to speak on that. So,
well, as I was pointing out, the roundabout that is still not in place, and the multiple.
Okay, we can't address that right now either. That's not going to be part of our purview at all. That's an engineering.
Yes, I understand that be, but with the roads as they are being landlocked, as we are as in this neighborhood, that's our only means to get in and out. And we are left to go, we can't go out at the top of the hill at Farmville because that's virtually impossible or very dangerous. And then there's 280, and here we are, and they have their development. And, you know, you're going in on an incline, and it's backed up on a regular basis too. And it's not even being considered with the influx of increased traffic for game days and that sort of thing from the bottle, because everyone comes up through there.
Okay.
But and how is it that they should be able to come through a already existing neighborhood that is totally separate and different as far as building and so forth, a third of the size, to depreciate our property when they have other means for which to access it, that we're forced into litigation to protect our investments in our homes?
Okay, you've kind of gone over your 5-minute limit. Do you have anything else that you can wrap us up with, so we can move on? So we have a number of others that would like to speak.
That about cover it.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Next, we'll have Brandon Henderson.
Hey, Philip. My name is Brandon Henderson. I live at 307 Flagstone Place, and Stonewood Farms subdivision. A lot of the stuff has already been said. I think the biggest worry that our neighborhood has is that when you drive out of Tuscany Hills and drive down into Stonewood Farms, the landscape is very different. The lots are larger, the homes are larger. There's a lot of trees that have been left in place. The creeks that run in between all the houses really make the neighborhood what it is. And I think that's why our neighborhood has had such success with homes selling very, 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 very well and very, very quickly. The worry that most of us have is by adding Tuscany Hills onto the end of our neighborhood that is Stonewood Farms with much smaller homes, or what appears to be much smaller homes. I mean, we're all worried about our property value. And I did hear the builder say that there was another option to get to that land through phase 5. And I think my recommendation would be that, that they explore that option, because that is through Tuscany Hills. That is all Tuscany Hills, whereas Stonewood Farms is a totally separate neighborhood that looks different, feels different, bigger houses, bigger lots, the houses cost more, different amenities. It's just a very different feel. And I would love for you guys to drive out there and see the difference, because there is a definite difference between the two. We're of course worried about the increase in traffic, but I think the biggest thing comes back to the value of the property and how, you know, if you stack a bunch of homes, 44 lots into that area, we're just worried that our nice neighborhood that has all these trees, that has these beautiful homes, is going to turn into a very populated, heavily populated subdivision. I'm not opposed to progress. Auburn is a community that everyone wants to live in. And that's the reason that people want to build homes here. I understand that, but I think my suggestion would be that if they're going to build homes off of Cantera Court, those homes should match the size, roughly the same lot size that already exists, so that it's a consistent neighborhood, whereas it's not totally separate, small lots, small homes versus large. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's our worry. That is, and I think it's a legitimate concern. And I think the phase 5 being an option for them to continue into that same property, to me makes more sense, because then it would separate those neighborhoods more consistently, I would think. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is Seth Snyder.
I'm Seth Snyder, 294 Quarry Place. Just want to reiterate exactly what Brandon just said. Probably couldn't have said it any better myself, but living on the road that will be part of this connection, or right down the street from where this will connect. I know, children playing on the street and that kind of stuff is not y'all's worry, but 2 young kids.
Yes, it is. That's a safety issue. It's
an extreme safety issue for me, having 2 young kids at home, playing up and down the street with all their friends in the neighborhood, and adding 43 new homes right down the street with the amount of traffic that's been coming up and down that road, when we've had 15 homes with 3 of those recently being built. It's just amazing to me that this can't be done through another entrance to this area. But again, I would reiterate exactly what Brandon said. It's just, I'm completely opposed to entering from Cantera Court. If there's any other options possible, I think that needs to be explored. But I hope y'all take that in consideration.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next is David Darby.
Thank you, Chairman Chancellor. David Darby here. My home is at 2654 Cantera Court, and that's at the intersection of Quarry Place and Cantera Court. And I had written a number of questions, so I'm to stick to my 5 minutes. I'm just going to run through my questions and comments and just leave it at that. And so first, what is the stormwater plan for the development? Will there be an on-site retention pond? If so, where will it be located? Or will it be dispersed into a storm sewer? With potential land loss, the number of roads, sidewalks, driveways, and rooftops in the new development, this could lead to poor percolation and disbursement to adjacent properties. And what were the calculations used in the stormwater plan? Also, a shallow creek runs parallel with Cantera Court, directly behind our home, along with the property line. What will be done to assure residents that stormwater will not be diverted from portions of Sector 7 onto our property? We've been told that the subject area is fairly rocky, which also impacts percolation. Was a subsurface geological report performed to determine the impact on low-grade foundations, and will test pits dug to determine the extent of the rock. How much blasting will be required in this sector? Have the protective covenants been approved and recorded? Residents should have an opportunity to study the protective covenants. Were these covenants filed by sector or for the entire Tuscany Hills subdivision? Was a traffic study performed for Sector 7? Is it available for review? What is the daily traffic count number per the traffic study? How many vehicles per lot and how many trips per day were used in the calculation? And just me doing some rough calculations, I'm looking at that increasing traffic flow, probably in the 200 to 300 vehicle range or trip range per day. What's the traffic plan for emergency vehicle access? This is key to our health, safety, and welfare. How many entrances will be provided along Highway 280, 38? I would expect this would be the best option for emergency vehicles entering and leaving the new sector. It would also be the best options for residents. Will there be an entrance to the sector from Tuscany Hills Drive? If not, why? An entrance from Tuscany Hills Drive is safer for our residents due to the lack of housing along that area of the street. Entrances along 280, 38 and Tuscany Hill Drive seem to be the safest and most efficient for the residents. Does the developer know how many children live and play just in that intersection area of Cantera Court and Quarry Place? It's a very high density area coming from Cantera Court and continuing on to Quarry Place. And by the way, there's about 40 children in this small area just in the cul-de-sac of Cantera Court. 13 children live and play in that cul-de-sac. Who are the members of the Architectural Control Committee, or is that the same as the entire subdivision? Bottom line, as a homeowner, I have the right to quiet enjoyment, and the plans as they stand for Phase 7 significantly impact privacy and peacefulness, but not only my home, but others in that area on Cantera Court and beyond. That's it.
Okay. 2 seconds left. Way to go. All right. Thank you. Let's see here. Who's next? Elizabeth Snyder.
Hello. I live at 294 Quarry Place. And I have 2 young children, and my husband spoke earlier, and I know a lot of people have been saying the same thing, but I just want to go on record and just say that if there is any way that they could use a different entrance other than Cantera Court and coming through our individual neighborhood, that would just be the best thing for our kids and our safety. I do stay at home with my children, and I see all of the dangerous cut through traffic that cuts through our neighborhood to get around that weird 4-way up there on the hill at Farmville. And I cannot imagine 88 plus cars, if you do 2 per household, coming through this little bitty area and turning left, all where our kids play. I don't know how many of y'all have been out here personally, but the majority of us, we do not have fences. It is like a miniature Mayberry out here. This is our neighborhood is the reason why people want to move to Auburn and have this small town feel. And if you start throwing all of this extra traffic and people and smaller homes and all of these different things around us, it completely kills our neighborhood and what we invested. All of us made, the investments of our lifetimes and wanted to build our homes here in this state. And most of us moved here because it was all really small and cul-de-sac roads. And we felt that it was the best spot for our children to grow up and be able to go next door or down the street and play with everyone. And it really just has been a dream come true living out here with such a small and close neighborhood and being able to allow your children to do that and to not have fences and to cross the creek and play in the creek and all these awesome things. So I know a lot of y'all are parents and y'all have families, on the planning commission. So if there's anything that y'all could do to help save and preserve our investment and our children's lifestyle and our lifestyle, we would just greatly appreciate it. I'm not opposed to development. I am pro-development, especially when it is done in a smart way that improves the quality of life of the residents around it. But in this case, I feel like this entrance on Cantera Court is plummeting our property value and is putting our children's lives in jeopardy. And so if there's just anything we could do to help ensure the safety of our kids and do a connectivity through Sophia Court or any other way, then I would be in favor of that. I do want to bring up, I would totally be opposed to anything connecting to 280. I have had a personal experience of being followed here in town, and I'm just really hyper aware of the sexual trafficking rings and all of that. And I do not want any easy access to our children in our neighborhood. I did just want to put that in there too. But thank y'all for your service to Auburn, and thank you for all your help.
All right, thank you. The next person is Deepa Devarakonda. Hope I didn't make that horrible, but all you have to do is unmute and you can speak.
Yeah, Mr. Chancellor, thank you for the opportunity. And no, you did not kill my name. It's Devarakonda.
Thanks.
I live on 2604 Capri Way, same Stonewood Farms neighborhood. And I would like to just echo everything that our neighborhood folks have spoken so far. Ms. Snyder kind of summarized all my concerns succinctly. I think I'm more worried for the safety of my children who are frequently playing on the street. And I'd like to reiterate, none of our homes have fences. We don't want to put up fences. Please don't make us put up fences for safety concerns. And we would like the entrance to Cantera Court not be available. And probably if the builder can explore another route, that would be great. And we're also concerned about our property values if this does come through. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Let's see, next is Jennifer James.
Okay, hey, actually it's John James, and my comment was just simply, I'm the chairman of the ARC for Stonewood Farms. And the concern that I have is when you turn on to Quarry Place off of Tuscany Hills.
Can we go back on the slide again? I'm sorry to butt in and give us that larger scale map. Logan, I'm not sure who's driving in there right now. Can you, yeah, right there, so we can see that a little better. Okay, so refresh, where are we talking about specifically?
Okay, when you go down Tuscany Hills.
Yep.
Yeah, right there at that intersection.
Okay, got it.
Okay, when you turn on to Quarry Place right there.
Yep.
There's a divided median, okay? When you get to the end of that divided median onto Cantera, if you turn left there onto Cantera, the corner lot right there is currently just finishing construction. It's lot number 102. Now, my point there is that road is more narrow right there for vehicles passing, that when we started going over the house plans for lot 102, The builder actually changed the location of that house and driveway because that roadway space by that median is so narrow. So they actually originally wanted the driveway to be on Quarry Place, but they overlooked the fact that that was a median there that, the occupant would have had to maneuver trying to get in and out of a driveway with. My point there is that accessibility to this new subdivision may face other obstacles than just a lot of traffic. It may physically be reducing like for some vehicles to make turns and things like that to get in there, as to where Tuscany Hills Drive is, I believe, more equipped for larger vehicles. It would make it much easier for emergency vehicle access to that area. I do believe that part of the planning here may be because of a budget issue. And what I'm talking specifically about is when you turn onto Quarry Place at that divided median area, it immediately crosses over a storm drain area. And I believe the contractor is planning access through Cantera Way so that he does not have to bridge again on Tuscany Hills to cross that waterway, which that creek line in there, if you're not familiar with that area, it almost follows the property line on what would be the west side of this new subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah. So see right there on the white dotted line, it is literally following a creek or storm drain, however you want to classify that. I don't know how you classify them, but it's a pretty major water drain that comes through there. But accessibility, especially for emergency access, would be a lot more advantageous if you're using Tuscany Hills Drive instead of trying to make those two turns right there in a tight area with big vehicles.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That wrap it up for you?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks. Okay. Seeing no one else, I'm going to close the public hearing. She got it in there. I got two more that just popped up. Boy, quick to the draw. Catherine Hollenbeck, excuse me.
Can you hear me?
Well, loud and clear.
Wonderful. My name's Catherine Hollenbeck. I live at 2641 Cantera Court. I want to just sort of echo the sentiment that is going around in direct opposition. I heard Mr. Rice in the beginning. I believe he's the builder or representing the builder for this plat. I heard him very conveniently try to avoid the connection to Phase 5 for Tuscany Hills. But it is my understanding that Phase 5 plat approval was hinging on them connecting. Is that correct?
Don't know the answer to that right now,
Okay.
but I can ask.
So my further request is, it's my understanding that Phase 5 would be complete before Phase 7. And my request, much like that of my other neighbors, would be that they would connect only in through Phase 5 and through Tuscany Hills, rather than bring Tuscany Hills access down to our separate subdivision. Home value is certainly a concern of my husband's and mine. Our home will now sit on a busy corner as a result of this development, when connection in through Phase 5 really makes more sense in keeping our neighborhoods separate. It isn't that we are up in arms about the development of this land. We do understand that it is zoned to be developed. We just want to continue to hold our property value where on Cantera Court, based on the plat division that the builder set forth. The home right next to the house at Tuscany Hills Drive and Cantera Court, where the right side runs along Corey Place, the house directly next to that could be a home of half its size. I mean, and we're talking about literally in the next yard.
Different HOAs.
Yeah, and different HOAs. So I just, again, want to reiterate that our request would be for them to connect in only through phase 5, where connection has already been requested by the planning, or maybe not requested, but I do believe required by the planning commission, that phase 5 would allow connection to this phase 7. So it is our request that the connectivity to phase 7 come only through phase 5 and not through our separate subdivision.
Okay.
One of the reasons my husband and I purchased our home on Cantera Court is, again, it's limited accessibility. We have 5 children on that, what will become a very busy corner. We're on the corner of Tuscany Hills Drive, Corey Place, and Cantera Court. That would make our home on a very busy corner. And, you know, my husband's big upset, or not upset, the big selling feature for my husband was that this was a dead end road. He's a veteran of 20 years in the Army, and so security is of his utmost concern. And that was a big driving factor for us to purchase our home here. So that's all.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Michelle Sanford. You have to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. We got you.
Okay. This is Michelle and Willie Sanford. We're at 299 Flagstone Place in Stonewood Farms. And we just echo with all our neighbors that we oppose any entrance coming through Stonewood Farms. We can appreciate growth in Auburn, and we don't mind the expansion to phase 7 for Tuscany. We just ask that if it's at all possible for the Tuscany subdivision to have an entrance through Tuscany, being phase 5 that was pre-approved prior, that we would love for Tuscany expansion to be through their neighborhood. And so our opposition is for them not to come through Cantera Court and come through Stonewood Farms.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, I'm going to ask one more time. Does anybody else need to have a say? Otherwise, I'm going to close this public hearing. Going once, going twice. Okay, we're closed the public hearing. And then, boy, do we have there's a lot of issues going on here. I think this connectivity and issues, to me, there's some problems with this. You know, and I think that is one of the issues that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cotton, that we can have a different, you know, we don't have to necessarily approve a preliminary plat if we have issues with connectivity. Is that true?
Yeah, connectivity is certainly within your purview, as this is a subdivision matter that begins and ends with the planning commission. So those are certainly reasonable issues, particularly based on some of the staff comments as well. If that's something you want to see explored more, or if you'd like to have the applicant's representative respond to what other options there might be.
Yeah, let me at least, I'll ask Mr. Rice. Let's see, I got to turn your microphone back on. I guess his comment at the very beginning is, you know, not only is that entrance just fine, why do I even need another potential entrance that would come off of, what is it, Sophia Court maybe? So I have, me personally, I don't know about the rest of the commission, I think the connectivity issues here are pretty significant. And especially when this was new to me in terms of there's 2 different developments in this neighborhood, you know, Tuscany Hills and Stone Bridge or Stone Mountain. And, you know, some of that discussion too, I think is relevant that, you know, why do we want to put a, you the Tuscany Hills subdivision driving through a completely other subdivision. I mean, to me, that just doesn't make sense on its face. But what else? So I just want to kind of open up. You have something you want to talk about there, Mr. Rice?
Absolutely. Excuse me. First, I would like to explain there was a great deal of discussion when I said a connection to the west is possible. It certainly is. I don't think anyone would argue that. The main issue with that is the developer of this property does not own that property. That is a completely separate development. Trying to hold a plat for this property until such time as something over there developed really is not really an option.
I hear you.
Come again?
I said I hear you. I understand
Okay.
what you're saying.
So I mean, I guess basically, really it really is only one option for initial development to transpire on this property. There really is only one option to connect into this property or to access it, and that is Cantera Court. The problem is Tuscany Hills Drive. While anyone would, say that, it would make the most sense, whomever originally laid this subdivision out and conceived it dead-ended Tuscany Hills Drive at a location for a very specific purpose. And that reason is that they ran into an area where they had mistakenly or on purpose, I couldn't really answer that question, but Tuscany Hills Drive dead ends into a big wetlands and stream side area. I couldn't explain why that is. It was done way before I was involved, but I think a couple of the residents even alluded to that. There's some waterfalls in the area. It's really, Tuscany Hills Drive really cannot extend any further without serious ecological ramifications. So the only access for this property is Cantera Court. A connectivity to the west would be this developer stubbing out for a project that they have no control over to the west to one day connect into. Like I said, that is possible, but it is not available for initial development. So that's really, from what I understand, that's the main concern. And that's really the way it stands today. This is our only option.
Mr. Chancellor, may I make a couple of comments?
Yes, ma'am. Come on.
Since you brought up connectivity. So I guess going back, and Blake made an observation about the connection of Tuscany Hills Drive. He's right. When this original subdivision was laid out, Tuscany Hills Drive was a circular road. So where it stubbed out on the west end of the subdivision to where it stubbed out on the east, that was originally planned to connect. The subdivision has generally followed the original. It wasn't a master plan, but a master layout. So Tuscany Hills Drive, again, stubbed out there. Cantera was stubbed out to access the property that is now being considered as Tuscany Hills Phase or Section 7. But these are public streets. And just as the question was raised at a prior case, we wouldn't want to block those or deny access. Yes, the topography is challenging, not necessarily impossible, but definitely would have some impacts. But I think it's important to note that, without connectivity, we, the city, will continue to experience and to hear traffic issues. There hasn't been an updated traffic study for this development. The original one from 2005 identified a build out, also identified acceptable levels of service at all of the access points at that time. And we've had any issues or reports of traffic issues or delays. So connectivity is very important, and we do need the connection to Tuscany Hills Phase 5 or Section 5 that the Planning Commission approved some months ago. So just wanted to bring those points out.
So yeah, that's another part of the number of questions I've written down here from public hearing. And this one you may be able to answer. We talk about the stub out between phase 5 and phase 7.
Yes.
So can somebody like Logan, can you where's 5 at? We're talking about that's up there. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Phase 5 is to the west of 7, and the properties connect.
But the comment was made, and I think I vaguely remember this now, that we required a stub out there to approve that.
We absolutely did. And we have not seen those plans yet, but you did require it.
But that's basically to get into the intent was to get into phase 5. It looks like primarily. That's why we required or was it something that we could be able to also get into phase 7 as well?
It was to get into phase 7 as well.
Yeah,
yes.
Jay, go ahead, Jay.
No, Allison just said it. The comment was requiring connectivity to the property to the east.
Okay, so there is a let's see, which one's Cantera Court? Okay, it's down there. I think we're talking about a couple of different things here. So in the packet, one of the comments from engineering is, or no, this is planning. The connection must be provided between Cantera Court and the property to the west.
That's correct.
So what are we talking about there? That's
property to the west being Tuscany Hills, section 5.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about the same thing.
Okay. Well then, okay, now I'm confused. Because we don't have there's nothing considered in this plat for that connection.
Well, that's why you've got the comment.
That's why the comment's there.
Okay.
Yeah, based on my understanding, I think as long as they stub out so that when phase 5 develops, we get another connection, I think that's the best you can do.
Now it's getting a little bit clearer, because I remember Blake Rice was talking about what the need for that stub out is, and now that makes more sense.
We require 5 to stub out, and we require 7 to stub out, and whoever develops first is a stub out, and whoever develops second connects the road.
And eventually you get another connection, so you kind of round out the development.
Yeah.
And you don't, and the concerns obviously of all the folks that have spoke and the other titled subdivision is that without that, everything's going to go in and out right through them. But I think the best you can do in this situation, given the location, is connect through the way it's proposed and stub it out on the other end and distribute the trips accordingly and call it a day.
Yeah.
At Tuscany Hills, is it not possible to traverse that wetland area with a bridge or something, as opposed to having it go up through Cantera? I know it's expensive, but is it possible?
I would say yes. Blake would probably disagree with that.
I understand the financial implications.
But there is a well-defined stream.
Don't worry about that.
Say again?
No, I know that nobody wants to build a bridge, but it is possible. Does the topography allow for that there?
Yeah, there's a well-defined stream there, but it is a possibility. Yes. I don't know exactly. We have not seen engineering plans, so I don't know if it'd be a culvert or a bridge or what that size would look like, but that is a possibility.
Okay.
Allison, is it a possibility that they could connect Cantera, take Cantera through and then actually connect up through Canal Court?
I'd have to look at the topography a little bit more, and Blake may be a little more familiar with it. There is some rock in this area up in section 5. There's probably some in section 7, but I would say it is a possibility.
Go ahead, Blake.
Yes, connection to canal, based on what I have seen from the adjacent property owner's plat, you would, if the connectivity to the west is necessary and required, then your best opportunity is probably Tuscany Hills Drive on the west side of Tuscany Hills Drive, north of the roundabout. Continue its path as it moves easterly now and cross in that area. The eastern end of Tuscany Hills Drive, you will hardly ever find me say something is impossible, but the extension of Tuscany Hills Drive is about as close as you can get. And it is not just a financial issue. The topography allows for this road coming down at a fairly significant angle, and directly in front of the current stub out of Tuscany Hills Drive is a parallel stream. It comes out from under Quarry Place heading north, turns in a westerly direction, and then turns again north. And it essentially would be right down the center line of Tuscany Hills Drive. What that means is that it would have to be piped. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers would pretty much never allow this to happen. It would never allow Tuscany Hills Drive to extend north and eat up who knows how many linear feet of stream, especially when Tuscany subdivision as a whole is way past its nationwide permit availability anyway. So I just, while physically could it ever be done, I would say it, there is a way to make it happen, but it is pretty much an impossibility for this area of Tuscany Hills Drive to extend north, if for no other reason due to federal guidelines.
Mr. Chairman, another point we may want to look at is plat. If Cantera Court is extended around and ties in either to Tuscany Hills Drive or Sophia Court, it goes to the center of the property. And if Tuscany Hills Drive was through the western portion of this section, we would be creating double frontage lots in those sections, which may warrant looking at replatting of the whole area. And both of those roads may not be totally necessary from a traffic standpoint, one or the other, but maybe not both.
That's an interesting observation. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I definitely think that some stub out has to be made.
I'll agree.
To the property to the west, that others have about turning distance and so forth here on Quarry Place, leads me to think that we should table this to a date certain to allow the developer and staff to talk further. I'd love to be able to have another meeting, but discussing this on Zoom is extremely difficult. At least it is for me. So my suggestion, and I can make it in a motion if you want to entertain it, that we table this to the next, to our December meeting, at whatever date that would be.
I believe it'll, Warren, I believe it'll be the 10th.
10th.
Would you consider not tabling and make your motion to postpone to the next meeting?
Postpone, yeah. Now, I do know that Alabama law requires us to take action within 30 days unless the developer is willing to agree to that. Would have to have a meeting. If it's more than 30 days, it's de facto approved under Alabama law.
Right.
So
I agree. We would need the applicant's consent.
Yes.
On the record.
Do we have it?
Mr. McCord, if I may I ask what the reasoning for tabling is? Is it simply the connectivity to the western property? Because if it is, I think my client would concede that it may be the best in light of testimony from hearing from the Stonewood Farms residents, it may be in my client's best interest and the interest of the subdivision as a whole to go ahead and agree that that connectivity to the west should be made, which would put this as a situation of approving with staff comments as it is.
Well, the staff comments would have to negotiate with you then as to where it is, where it's to be. But we didn't stub out Canal Court for nothing either. There's another option that I don't think I've heard mentioned. There was, though, although I must say to, I share the concerns of the differences and that sort of thing with the Quarry Court people. However, we did require that that the street be stubbed out there in their subdivision, and that should have let them know that the vacant property to the west eventually would be developed. And I think then I would only get to the difference in the size of the lots that they would have any concern over. But at the same time, just because the lots are smaller and the houses are smaller does not necessarily mean that those people will be a detriment to their community. But we do need to resolve, I think, there on Cantera with that. I couldn't quite follow it. That's why these Zoom meetings drive me crazy. But it did make sense if there was a problem with the exact location of your connection to the stub out. I don't quite understand what's going on there. But yeah, if I'm supposed to agree that you will stub out to the west and let the staff work with you on where it is, then that's okay with me.
That's what I would propose if amenable.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Ms. Frazier a question, please?
Absolutely.
Ms. Frazier, I'm sure your staff's looked at Quarry Place and this median that's in the middle, reducing the size of the entrance and exit lanes there. But for the record, we might want to get some comment that is adequate like it is to handle this traffic.
Yeah, the road was designed with that median. So it's a one lane on each side of Quarry Place, and it is sufficient. We have that situation in other places in town. So yes, it's sufficient as is.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve this plat with staff comments, which certainly includes his connection up to the northwest side for Cantera Court.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, Amber, can you give us a roll call?
Chancellor?
Yes.
Jaeger?
Yes.
Lazenby?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
McCord?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Reitenbaugh?
Yes.
Birmingham?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right, let's move on. Let's see. Let's move on to, hang on a second, I'm organizing my Zoom here real quick. Let's move on to case item number 9, which is 620 East Glen Condos. It's a conditional use approval request. It's PL 2020-00569. Ms. Robinson, and congratulations on your new position.
Oh, thank you very much. You're correct. This is a conditional use request for a performance residential use, multiple unit development in the Corridor Redevelopment District East, the CRDE. They are proposing a 3-unit, multiple unit development with a total of 8 bedrooms. 3 of the parking spaces will be in a garage, and the others are surface parking in the rear. You may recall this being before you guys about a couple of years ago. The original proposal was the same as this, a multiple unit development. However, that option was tabled. They came back the following month with a townhouse product that was approved. At that time, the property was RDD. And since then, it's been rezoned with the Harper Avenue Focus Study area to CRDE. And most housing types are permitted by right in that zone, except for multiple unit development, which is conditional. And the reason that they chose to go the MUD route instead of the townhouse route is they would have to have 3 separate meters to connect to the water line over here. So they'd have to go under the East Glen 3 times. So with a multiple unit development, they can have 1 master meter. We do recommend approval with staff comments, and I did not get any correspondence on this case.
All right, thank you. Let's see, do we have a representative?
Yes, I do believe the applicant and his representative are both on the line.
I'm looking as the applicant, Keith Greiner.
Should be a David Walker and Ledge Nettles or Arthur Nettles.
Okay. Mr. Nettles, do you have anything you'd like to add as a representative?
No, I'd be glad to answer any questions though.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it. Okay, this does require a public hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And if you'd like to speak on this matter, please raise your electronic hands and I'll recognize you. Okay, Michael Gross is the first one. Go ahead. Just you have to unmute your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Michael Gross. I live at 677 Kingsway, which is adjacent to this property in the Charleston Place Homeowners Association. And I guess my role as I'm speaking will be both as a homeowner with a property adjacent to this, and I also serve on our Homeowners Association board. A few questions I have is, obviously, this was before the Planning Commission, almost 2 years ago, I think it was approved. Back then, the developer wanted to put it back near the property line, but I guess the rules had changed and they had to go forward, which meant all the parking was in the back, which was kind of what we wanted as a HOA and what I wanted personally as a property. But there was questions about the 75% ISR and then the drainage. I think at that time I raised questions and asked engineering about what type of drainage would be required of this, especially as I look at this drawing and see a whole concrete driveway down one side, and then if I'm reading it right, it's a whole concrete parking lot, and then 15 foot of grass or some type of setback off the property line. We are already starting to have erosion problems in our neighborhood with drainage coming off Glen and Ryan. We think we're trying to look into this. It goes into our holding pond at the back of our property. And so this is stuff that we're already having to look into, and we are concerned that now with the slope of this lot, that all of this water is going to run back off Glen down through here. Our Homeowners Association president talked to somebody at the city, I can't remember who, but at one point there was something mentioned, a possibility of a water pond or something of that nature at the back of the property, which would be the, I guess, drainage system that just, if it's anything like the water pond that's in front of the Kroger shopping center that holds water that becomes stagnant, I don't know that that's something I personally, as the homeowner adjacent to this, want in my backyard. So a lot of our questions are in this area. And really, truly, the other question is just, I'm assuming this is back up just because it needs to be approved again. Again, I think it was February of 19, maybe when we were before y'all before, and they came in June of last year and tore the house down and started clearing the lots. And the lot has pretty much sat empty. They cleared off all the way back to about within 10 foot. You can come out here and look. There's still tons of junk poured on the back edge of that property. There's an old rotten mattress out there. There's piles of shingles. There's stuff that they left and didn't clean off. So that's the personal side. I'm kind of tired of looking at it. So again, I'm not against them building this. Really, the issue is drainage. What type of drainage is going to be in the back? Is this going to have to be developed? Because it's just like I said before, if this works, eventually I can see the two houses beside them coming in and possibly doing this if it's, productive, if it makes money. The other houses along Glen, which will make the whole corridor look good, but that water's got to go somewhere. And, as a homeowners association, we are concerned about that. As a homeowner, I'm also personally concerned. I have a 6.5-year-old that runs around in the backyard, and I'd really like to see something done here sooner than later, seeing how it has been at least almost 1.5 years now since the property was torn down and the lot has just been sitting there empty.
Okay. Does that wrap it up for you?
I think so. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's see. Is Mr. Walker a representative or is he a?
He's the applicant, and I believe Mr. Nettles is the representative.
Okay. So both of them there. Okay. Let me hold off for just a second with the owner and the applicant and ask if there's anybody else that would like to speak at the public hearing, and then I'll get back to you. All right. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Let's see, Mr. Walker, you wanted to have something to say there? Go ahead and just unmute your microphone. We should be able to hear you.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I was just going to address just a couple of the things. Our intentions were not to delay the project this long. We waited to tear down the house until we thought we were ready to begin construction. When we met at the DRT meeting, we got set up kind of last minute notice in December last year. And then I was in the town, so we pushed it to January. We met in January, and this was approved as townhomes, and the townhome, the way the utilities were going to run to be compliant with townhome, we were going to have to bore underneath Glen Avenue 3 different times in 3 different places. And so in the DRT meeting, it was discussed that it would probably be more efficient and better if we did if we switched to a condo plat, had it compliant with the condo plat, but it would have to go back through for approval. So it completely delayed the project because we also had to add conduct a traffic study in order to not have a turn lane. And when we got a traffic engineer involved is when COVID came in, and we weren't able to conduct a traffic study until the students came back to school. So it is what has delayed this project so far into this year. And the traffic study came back, and we submitted everything. The turn lane is not even feasible due to the how much of the property, the width of the property. On the rainwater, I think Ledge can address it, but we've got it. We have addressed it for the on site. It's compliant to state guidelines, and it is under an acre in development. So we're working with all the usable space we can to we don't want a stagnant and I, as the developer, we're going to end up owning the center unit. So I definitely don't want any kind of a detracting stagnant water at the back of this property either myself.
Okay, thank you. And then I assume, Ms. Frazier, this might be more of an engineering sort of thing. There are certain guidelines on any of this kind of rainwater and drainage that have to be met as a matter of course, right?
Yeah, the issue of drainage came up when this was originally presented to you, and we did make that note to the engineer during the DRT process. The plans were not finalized, as the applicant said, so that's something we will still resolve once this process is done and they resubmit to DRT.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, do I have any more discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve PL 2020-569 with all staff comments.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Amber, can you give us a roll call?
Chancellor,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Lazenby,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
McCord,
Did we lose Warren? We might have lost him because I don't see him on the thing. Okay. Let me look. Yeah, it looks like he's not there.
Okay. Reese,
Yes.
Reitenbaugh,
Yes.
Birmingham.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to item number 10, the Preserve Phase 4C waiver appeal. This is PL 2020-00589. Mr. Crowdis.
Yes, this this involves the Preserve Phase 4C development, which you can see in the map shown on the screen. And this phase involves a new street connection that will tie directly to Farmville Road across from Bud Black. The turn lanes are required on Farmville Road as part of this development. The applicant submitted a waiver request to not install the northbound turn lane, and their request was also to delay the installation of the southbound left turn lane to a point in the future when either a later phase in the development or if a new development agreement was maybe worked out that specified different timing for that. The waiver request was denied, and it's coming to you for an appeal from the developer.
Okay, and I believe Mr. Slocum is the representative. Would you like to have a say there, Mr. Slocum?
Yes, thank you. So there are two different items under discussion here, two different lanes under discussion. So there's a northbound left turn lane and a southbound left turn lane that we're discussing. So if you're heading north on Farmville Road, a left turn will take you onto Bud Black Road. And if you're southbound, headed into town on Farmville Road, the left turn will take you into the Preserve at the new street intersection proposed for Phase 4C. And I just want to be clear that we're not disagreeing with the design manual or the development agreement or anything like that. This is really about timing. We're requesting a waiver to delay the construction of the southbound turn lane until it's warranted. And that'll allow us to move forward with construction of Phase 4C in accordance with the recommendations outlined in our traffic study. We were required to obtain a traffic study, and the traffic study says these turn lanes are not required until at least 2025. So this is 5 years premature to even be having this discussion. We're not disagreeing that the turn lanes may be needed in the future, but the fact is they're just not needed right now. There's several hundred acres here to be developed. There's a lot of construction to take place, a lot of opportunities to construct these turn lanes. The The northbound traffic turning left onto Bud Black Road is not associated with the preserve at all. There are residential developments on Bud Black Road that are contributing to that traffic. And we feel like they need to have a part in the expense of constructing that left turn lane. You know, that traffic is just in no way associated with the preserve. The southbound traffic turning left at the intersection is directly related to the preserve, but it's just simply not warranted right now. So building the turn lanes are not just outright disputed. It's just a matter of timing. And we're just asking for the ability to phase it into construction at a time when it's more appropriate and when it's actually needed.
Okay. All right. Well, this does not require a public hearing. So any discussion on this or motion? I guess I just want to clarify for myself, because as I read through the packet, I was kind of losing track of exactly what we're, what the different decisions are make. It looks like, so we have 4 different turn lanes is what I see here altogether. And at this point in time, we're just saying, let me ask is, we're not saying we're not going to, the developer isn't going to participate in building them. It's just the when they're going to build it. I mean, is that kind of what it boils down to there, Dan? I'm missing something?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And it's like I explained on Monday, what the applicant is requesting is to build what's in yellow. If you're looking at the image, the bottom right yellow lane, and not build the purple lanes.
They're going to build the yellow, and you said not, and they want to postpone the other ones. They
want to postpone the purple. Yes, correct.
It appears that the construction is in the yellow, and once you put that in there, there's space for the purple with no additional construction.
I think she was saying yellow, meaning the right turn lane, that shaded yellow, not all of the yellow. The small slivers of yellow are the physical widening that would be required to stripe out those left turn lanes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll see what you're saying.
Thank you, Dan.
Let's address this just a little bit. We've, for some time, relied on these engineering studies and warrants and timing and traffic counts, and we haven't done anything based on those. And then by the time we meet the warrants, things have gotten so congested and so expensive, it doesn't get done anymore because the development is already done and you've got no resource to fund it or anybody to do it. And I would say from my experience in development in Auburn and other areas, we can look at some places that we wish we had done these things 5 years ago and now can't do them. And I think the engineering has been quite appropriate in addressing the problem from intersections and the classifications of those intersections, and not just on the warrants of traffic. And if we wait till it meets the warrant, it may be a long time, and by the time we get there, the development's already going to be done. And I think very strongly that we've set up a program to do these things. We've not done it overnight. It's been a standing requirement for maybe a year or two now, and I think it's important to support the staff and what they've done to make these improvements.
Let me Let me ask a question too. Would this be part of the bonding process?
It could be with the final plat. One of the, and not to get too far into the weeds, but one of the challenges with this particular phase of the preserve is it's not covered under a development agreement right now. So it could be that I guess we would not have any certainty if the developer just finished this phase and not completed all of the improvements, if that makes sense.
Oh,
you don't necessarily.
Yeah.
But it could, if these improvements are required, they could be part of the final plat and part of the bonding, and then we would make sure those improvements are finished before the bond is
yeah. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. That, maybe if that's, if the issue is timing and that sort of thing, the concern of the city is that we want it done, yes. And so then it's, if we can tie it to a bond, then that might, win-win for both of them, maybe. But I don't know the details of the bonding process myself, but if that's a consideration, then that, maybe that's something we ought to think about.
Yeah, if these improvements were required, they would become, the design of these improvements would be part of the design of the overall subdivision. So for us, we would consider it as one, this is phase 4C. 4C would encompass all of the improvements on on Farmville Road, as well as the internal improvements, and the bond would be cohesive.
Let me ask another question. I'm not sure who would answer this one, but we see sometimes, for whatever economic reasons, developers and builders come and go. If we tied this like a bond to this particular phase of the preserve, and then it changes hands, do we still have do we still, does that cause us any issue in terms of being able to collect the bond and get the work done, or get the work done so we don't have to collect the bond?
Typically it does not. The only issue we had was years ago when Colonial Bank went under. We lost a couple of bonds. They didn't honor them, but for the most part,
it changes hands. Just changes hands on another developer, and they get it. They get the bond. Okay.
Yeah. So we keep the bond current until it's time. We don't let it expire. So if the developer changes hands, unless we get a new bond instrument with a new developer, the old one, if you will, is still good.
Okay.
If I could interject here also, the preserve, or at least this section of the preserve, is under a current development agreement that it actually expires in February. And there's a new development agreement that is in negotiations. I think it's very close to being finalized. And I think the goal is to have it finalized before the existing development agreement expires. So that's another opportunity for the city to require these to be installed in the future. Not to mention the fact that there are hundreds of lots left to be developed out here in multiple phases, where the city could interject that type of requirement.
Mr. Slocum, is there oh, never mind. We just lost the hand there. That answers that question. Okay. Any other discussion, motion?
I would just like to talk for a minute about the necessity of the turn lanes. My opinion is coming down from the north on Farmville. Anything that's turning into the preserve, I think the turn lanes should be addressed now. If that development's going to start, then people will be living there and needing to get in and out of that subdivision. So for me, at a minimum, the right turn in and the left turn in to the preserve should be required to be built out now. Bud Black Road, I don't think is quite as necessary currently, but if you're going to do one, then you might as well go ahead and do both of them. But mean, this is the requirement, and it is a lot of houses out there. And I know that these people are not the only traffic on this road. And I guess that would have to be mitigated with any future development that connects to this. And maybe that can be part of that private agreement. But I think from a safety standpoint, Farmville Road is getting busier by the day. And we have a lot of areas now where we have this conversation a great deal because we did not address it or we pushed it down the road when dealing with traffic. So I think if we have the opportunity to mitigate it now, we should.
I also feel personally, I feel like what Allison said, if it can ride and be part of the final plat, then final part of this construction, I'm fine with that. I do believe it needs to be put in, especially the turn lane coming in and turning left into the preserve. I understand what Mr. Slocum's saying about the Bud Black side, but I feel like preserving the people that are purchasing in the preserve is what is in our best interest as well. So
yeah, we don't disagree with that. The turn lane will get constructed, and we add turn lanes all the time. It's not like this is one and only shot. Adding the new street and the right turn lane is a minimal impact to the traffic flow there during construction.
I feel like we're waiting on a motion. Not sure. There was crickets. So just gonna go with a motion. Allison, I would love it if you need to amend it in any way to say what you said. I would like to make a motion for the denial of the waiver. Is that correct? Oh, you're muted.
Denial of the appeal.
Sorry. Yeah, appeal.
Appeal.
I can't hear you.
And I'll
Allison's saying words.
Denial of the appeal. No?
She can't hear us.
I can hear her.
I don't actually think she's
We can all hear her.
Yeah.
She obviously can't hear any of us.
Nope.
Alyssa, can you do sign language?
So she didn't realize Slocum was talking when she heard the long silence and made the motion.
I had the sound turned on.
How about another motion maker?
Yeah. Is she going to come back on, or can we make another motion?
We missed it all.
You know what? Say, Nanette, you can't hear any of us, can you? Can you hear us? What you might have to do is just disconnect and come right back in.
I'm okay now.
Are you going to make a motion? Can you make a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'm hearing myself. The waiver be denied, but if Allison can put her words on it as far as it being included in the 4C final plat, that would be, I'm just let me know how to say that.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So mute your mic, and I'll say it again, and then you can make your motion. If you want to deny the appeal, then this will automatically become part of the 4C infrastructure improvements. So there's no additional language that's needed, if that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, I would like to move to deny the appeal to the waiver. Period.
Second the motion.
Bill, you're muted.
Okay, I am muted. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
So just a clarification. So the motion is that they will be required to follow the current construction manual, right, for the road.
That's the intent of the second.
Okay, thank you.
So let me make sure I'm clear too. So we're saying that we want to have everything done now.
No.
Okay, that's what I'm confused about then. How do you read that, Horst, with that motion?
The way Allison described it, that by denying the appeal, they will just follow the normal course, which would be to make sure those infrastructure improvements are secured with the final plat approval, which will be at some point down the road.
Okay. So that gives them some time that they're asking for, but we're also covering ourselves through maybe the bonding process and all that kind of stuff.
I think so. I think that's kind of a meet in the middle.
Got it. That makes sense.
Gotcha, but they still will have to do the purple and the yellow, which is a timing issue.
Timing's different.
Yeah, the intent and the intent of what I said, I may not have said it right, was yes, what Forrest said, but they need to design those improvements and we need to approve them as well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that, the motion in a second. Amber, can you please do a roll call?
Chancellor,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Lazenby,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
McCord.
We still don't have
Not
him.
here, sorry.
Yeah.
Reese,
Yes.
Breitenbaugh,
Yes.
Birmingham.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Well, that concludes the agenda. There is no other business. I do have a little bit of chairman's communication that I'd like to share. Forrest.
Yes.
You're going to be missed greatly, my friend. We're so glad that you're moving on up into bigger and better things as you take another step in your career. You know, you've taught me a great deal personally. I'm sure everybody sitting here can say the same thing. And you're leaving quite the legacy of what I believe is great municipal planning behind you. You know, that includes things like the comprehensive plan. You've got solid ordinances, thoughtful and fair planning processes, and well-trained planners that are also doing the same thing, going on to bigger and better things as well. Because they've gotten some good training from a master, you know. So we've got people that are doing other jobs like the director of planning in Opelika and some pretty significant responsibilities at the university. So just to name a few. So without any doubt, I believe you left Auburn a better place. You're leaving it as a better place, and we thank you for that. So on behalf of all of us on the Planning Commission, I wish you, Susan, and your daughters the very best, and Godspeed in your new challenge.
Thank you, sir. Come see me at the beach.
We're going to. We appreciate that. And unless do you have anything to wrap up with the staff communication, or?
No, sir. Just going to miss all of y'all equally, if not more so. And all of my folks here have, you know, I've had a lot of planners come and go, but this is the best bunch I've ever had. And only wish I could steal them away from y'all and take them south with me.
You might do it. You never know. We won't let them. That's what we're saying. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody's time and attention. And I call this meeting adjourned. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
It's adjourned, but Mr. Chairman, I think you spoke very well and quite well done in the sentiments of everybody on the commission, and we appreciate your doing that.
Thank you. No problem at all. Glad to. All right. Take care, you guys. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.